especially young birds, is crucial to achieve success in the sport. A well-motivated bird is more likely to perform well, fly faster, and make better decisions during a race. In this article, we'll explore the psychological edge that can give your young birds a competitive advantage. Understanding pigeon psychology. Pigeons are intelligent birds that have a complex mental state. They have a natural instinct to fly, explore, and socialize. However, they can also become stressed, anxious, or bored if their environment is not stimulating or challenging enough. As a pigeon fancier, it's essential to understand your bird's psychological needs and provide them with a suitable environment to thrive. The importance of socialization. Socialization is a critical aspect of pigeon psychology. Young birds, in particular, need to be socialized to develop good flock behavior and reduce stress. Socialization helps them learn important skills such as 1. Dominance hierarchy. Young birds learn to establish a dominance hierarchy within the flock, which helps them navigate conflicts and reduce stress. 2. Communication. Socialization helps young birds develop effective communication skills, including vocalizations, visual displays, and body language. 3. Problem solving. Socialization provides young birds with opportunities to practice problem-solving skills, such as finding food and avoiding predators. To socialize your young birds, you can 1. Keep them in a large aviary or loft with plenty of space to move around. 2. Introduce new birds gradually to prevent stress and aggression. 3. Provide a variety of toys and enrichment activities to keep them stimulated. 4. Handle your birds regularly to help them become tame and trusting. The power of positive reinforcement. Positive reinforcement is a powerful tool for motivating your young birds. By rewarding good behavior, you can encourage them to repeat it and develop a strong bond with you. Here are some ways to use positive reinforcement. 1. Treats. Offer your young birds treats such as sunflower seeds, millet, or mealworms when they perform well or exhibit good behavior. 2. Praise. Verbal praise and affection can go a long way in motivating your young birds. Use positive language and gentle touch to reinforce good behavior. 3. Enrichment. Provide your young birds with enrichment activities such as puzzle toys, foraging games, or scent work to challenge them and keep them engaged. The importance of consistency. Consistency is key when it comes to motivating your young birds. Pigeons thrive on routine and predictability, so it's essential to establish a consistent daily routine. This includes 1. Feeding times. Feed your young birds at the same time every day to establish a routine. 2. Exercise. Provide your young birds with regular exercise, such as flying or playing, to keep them healthy and stimulated. 3. Handling. Handle your young birds regularly to help them become tame and trusting. The role of visual cues. Visual cues can play a significant role in motivating your young birds. Pigeons are visual animals, and they respond well to visual stimuli. Here are some ways to use visual cues. 1. Colors. Use bright colors such as red, yellow, or orange to attract your young bird's attention and stimulate their visual senses. 2. Patterns. Use patterns such as stripes or checks to create visual interest and stimulate your young bird's curiosity. 3. Movement. Use movement such as swinging or spinning to create visual stimulation and encourage your young birds to explore. The importance of mental stimulation. Mental stimulation is critical for young birds, as it helps them develop problem-solving skills and reduce stress. Here are some ways to provide mental stimulation. 1. Puzzle toys. Offer your young birds puzzle toys filled with treats to challenge their problem-solving skills. 2. Foraging games. Create foraging games by hiding treats or food in various locations to encourage your young birds to search and problem solve. 3. Scent work. Introduce your young birds to scent work by hiding treats or toys with a specific scent to encourage them to use their sense of smell. The role of music and sound. Music and sound can play a significant role in motivating your young birds. Pigeons are sensitive to sound, and they respond well to music and other auditory stimuli. Here are some ways to use music and sound. 1. Music. Play calming music such as classical or nature sounds to create a relaxing atmosphere and reduce stress. 2. Sound effects. Use sound effects such as bird calls or wind chimes to create a stimulating environment and encourage your young birds to explore. 3. White noise. Use white noise such as a fan or a white noise machine to create a constant, soothing sound that can help reduce stress and promote relaxation. Conclusion. Motivating your young birds is crucial for their success in racing. By understanding pigeon psychology, providing socialization, using positive reinforcement, maintaining consistency, utilizing visual cues, providing mental stimulation, and incorporating music and sound, you can give your young birds a competitive edge. Remember to always prioritize your birds' welfare and well-being, and to provide them with a safe and stimulating environment. With patience, dedication, and the right techniques, you can help your young birds reach their full potential and achieve success in the sport of pigeon racing. We start about 5 to 10 kilometers away from the loft and release the birds at that point 2 to 3 times. Gradually, we increase the distance of the training tosses to 20, 30, and 40 kilometers, staying at each location 3 times. On the third visit, we single toss each bird to encourage independence and build confidence in their navigation abilities. Single tosses are done after the bird has been to the location at least twice with the group. Our birds need both physical maturity and mental ability to race and home successfully at a young age. Single tossing is the best way to teach these skills. When training at short distances, like 5, 10, or 20 kilometers, we prefer multiple tosses per day rather than one long toss. The birds always have access to feed and water, and the routine remains the same: train, land, trap, peanuts, or dehusked sunflower seeds. For release locations, we choose prominent landmarks visible from great distances. Once we reach the 50 kilometers toss location, all training tosses are done individually to promote independent flying. The direction can be adjusted based on the loft's location. Before each training toss, it's crucial to ensure the birds are well fed, hydrated, and in good condition. Hunger negatively affects their performance and can cause memory loss, fatigue, and weight loss. Homing becomes secondary to survival, resulting in potential loss of birds. If the birds fly from south to northeast, they tend to head towards land first, east, and then fly north. In such cases, we single toss the birds with at least a 10-minute interval to prevent them from waiting for each other and flying home together. Single tossing plays a significant role in developing mental maturity and intelligence in pigeons. It teaches them to think independently and not rely on other birds. It's important to recognize that racing pigeons must navigate and think for themselves, becoming leaders rather than followers. Single tossing helps educate the bird and build its confidence to fly alone. We shouldn't overlook the bird's familiarity with the shipping baskets used by the local club. Successful trainers provide identical baskets for the birds to eat and drink from, replicating the size, color, feed and water location, release location, and opening of the club's crate. This prepares the birds for basket night, giving them an advantage by knowing where to find food and water. In each situation, we aim to prepare our birds in advance for new experiences. Our training and learning techniques encourage independent thinking and navigation, setting our birds apart from others in the race. It's important to understand that we breed and train athletes, whether human or animal. They require athletic ability, proper training and coaching, a nutritious diet, good health and hygiene, sufficient rest, a regular routine, and a stress-free environment to compete and win consistently. In England, we have various races for young and old birds. Classic races hold high value, where each loft enters their best birds to compete against other top lofts. The race distances range from 250 kilometers to over 1,000 kilometers. These races test the bird's intelligence, orientation, navigation abilities, motivation, determination, courage, and heart. They fly individually for long distances, showcasing their leadership skills. Birds that perform well in these races often become excellent breeders and hold great value in breeding lofts. They prove themselves under challenging race conditions after receiving proper education. As parents, we want the best for our children. We provide them with top-quality education by sending them to the best schools, ensuring they have excellent teachers, and providing them with the best learning resources. We invest time and money in their education because we believe it is crucial for their success in life. Similarly, we must give our young birds the best possible training for them to have the greatest chance of succeeding and winning significant prizes. They are like young children eager to learn, and their education begins from the day they are born. To ensure their proper development, we start by providing them with the best nutrition. This includes a regular diet of grains with a protein content of 15 to 17%, supplemented with raw peanuts, safflower, and poultry pellets containing 21 to 28% protein. We also offer fresh grit daily and provide liquid vitamins, minerals, and electrolytes in their water 2 to 3 times a week. From a young age, around 14 days old, we introduce small grains in their nest bowl during each feeding to teach them to eat. We also gently dip their heads into water once or twice a day starting at 21 days old to encourage drinking. We begin this early education to avoid any setbacks in their growth, muscle development, bone structure, or feather quality when we separate them from their parents at 26 to 30 days old. It is important not to limit or ration the feed for young birds in training. They should have unlimited access to quality grain from birth until the end of a race series, just like ensuring our children have enough food to grow big, strong, and healthy. When we wean the young birds, usually at 26 to 30 days of age, we want them to have a continuous supply of feed and water for about 4 to 6 days. This ensures their uninterrupted growth and mental and physical development, keeping them active and alert at all times. When settling the birds in the flying loft, we follow a simple routine. We show them where to enter or trap safely, guiding them through the trap a few times by hand. A few peanuts waiting for them after trapping encourages them to do so quickly. This routine should remain consistent, with the same sequence of loft fly or exercise, landing, trapping, and peanuts. After about 3 to 4 weeks of loft flying, the young birds will become stronger and more curious. They will start exploring beyond the immediate vicinity of the loft, spending time routing and checking their surroundings away from the loft. When they demonstrate this behavior, it indicates they are ready for road training tosses. However, road training should not begin until the birds start routing. Again, we need to educate the birds about the training basket. We gradually introduce them to the basket a few at a time in front of the loft, allowing them to stay inside for about 10 to 15 minutes before opening the basket for them to safely fly back to the loft. We repeat this process 3 to 4 times with a few birds at a time before starting road training. Condition and racing pigeons. I happened to be standing among a group of fanciers at a show when one of those present popped this question. I wish you could have seen the expressions on the faces of the fanciers, and sampled the stony-like silence that greeted the query. What is meant by condition? The asker repeated, obviously delighted by the consternation he had caused. Come on, you experts, why don't you give me the proper answer? There was no doubt that the asker was deliberately goading the experienced fanciers among us. He seemed to be enjoying himself. Don't ask me, piped up one of those present. I'm an outright novice with only 5 minutes of experience behind me. Then eyes began to swivel in the direction of the 4 aces who up until that moment had tended to lead and dominate the conversation. As in all other spheres, those with little experience tend to look up to and defer to the acknowledged veteran. One of the 4 aces, goaded beyond measure, at last dared to give a reply. I define condition in racing pigeons, he said, with his chin jutting, as being in that state in which every animal must be in order to perform satisfactorily any arduous task which may be demanded of it. He paused to study each face and to learn from the expression of his audience whether they thought he had said the right thing, and had said it well. Couldn't put it any better than that myself, I said, although I thought that he had done well to come up with such a good definition. Questions shot at fanciers without warning, demanding answers off the cuff, can often be confusing and daunting, yet given a few moments in which to wrestle with the query, any problem can be solved. It then occurred to me that the biggest disadvantage any novice labors under is that of not knowing what condition looks like and when a racing pigeon has it on him. How does he tell? I've done a lot of thinking along these lines, asking myself over and over again, what is condition? I always end up by giving myself the same old answer. The symptom, like the effect, is always in the plumage. I wonder how many fanciers are going to disagree with me on this subject? If I want to recognize a bird that is in condition, I look at its plumage and note the extra high polish of the shine given off by the sheen on the bird's neck and throat. I see the bloom laying like a layer of finely ground French chalk over its back and on its feather. I see the outline, sketched in grease, of the upper primary where it overlaps the one beneath, and I want my fingers to confirm the evidence of my own eyes, so I put my fingers and thumb under the bird's wing and try and detect, by touch, that greasy condition of the feather that is indivisible from racing form or, if you prefer it, condition. A bright eye does not always tell the truth. One day I looked into one of those much praised bright eyes and thought I saw in the glitter of the iris that which was not gold at all but the horrid and heightened glaze of fever. But the condition of the plumage never lies. If the bird is abundantly fit, not just well but super fit, the plumage will tell the story clearly, plainly, so that those who know what they are looking for can seek and find it. It is a pity that novices don't make this search after condition their very first priority, because once seen and understood, no one can ever again fail to see condition. Birds of good condition keep their covers tight and flat so that the surface area of the wing, for instance, looks like a marbled flat and hard surface with never a feather out of place, or raised and bearing the outward appearance of a feather. Instead, one is presented with the fascinating view of a beautiful silk counterpane that radiates fitness along with its great beauty. If you take up one of your birds, and you hold it against the surface of your jacket, something should happen. What? The bird's plumage should deposit a mass of white bloom on the cloth of your coat. If you look down at the cloth and find that it has collected nothing from the contact, then you may be quite sure that the bird is sick and ailing. Fit pigeons make clouds and clouds of white bloom with which to adorn their plumage, and it should pass from them to you, on contact. The bloom should whiten your fingers when you have held a pigeon, and if the pigeon tends to shake itself after you have put it down, the air around it should be loaded with a cloud of bloom. Watch the bird if it steps into the bath. When it leaves the bath, the surface of the water should be covered by the spreading dust of the bloom. I once read an article in the Pigeon press, written by a well-known fancier, who went to some pains in pointing out that the condition of a show racer was different from that of the working racer pigeon. He referred to the high gloss of the show racer and the matte finish of the racer, thereby artfully suggesting that the condition put on by both types was different, that it was better in the show racer than in the actual, genuine article. My reaction to the above writer was that it is 1,000 pities such eminent fanciers should write so much nonsense. There can only be one kind of top condition in any species of pigeon because condition is merely a term for bouncing good health. High gloss and matte finish. Sheer baloney. The greasy feel that one can find beneath the wing is also apparent to the fingertips when holding a bird that is mounted to the dizzy heights of condition. While I repudiate high gloss and matte finish, I must also agree that there must be degrees of fitness, or condition. In other words, some pigeons achieve a stratum of condition, which others never rival. These are the supremely fit pigeons, those whose metabolism is capable of exceeding the average. Hence my reference to the greasy plumage feeling which is given off by the superior pigeons, those who are of the highest degree. In another article, written by another fancier, but on a similar subject, I was informed that condition is the sole product of specialized feeding. I deny this, and I deny it with vigor. Condition in racing pigeons is not the product of a single factor but the end reward of many, after they have been made to operate in unison. No one can deny that the diet must be part of the package deal which we call condition. I would say it is essentially the second thing to be considered. Only the second? Yes. The second. The first thing is to be sure that the bird is housed in a hygienic and well-ventilated interior and that it has been provided with a wire mesh aviary into which it can go whenever it wishes to take the air, or have and feel the rain falling on its back. One of the reasons why it can be so difficult to settle, break, an old pigeon to a new loft is because the bird is denied access to rain on its back whenever it wishes. It is imperative that the conditions inside the loft are manifestly contributing to the bird's state of health before coming to the subject of the diet. I do not intend to use my remaining space on a discourse on dieting, so I will take it for granted that the novice can, by taking up one of my works, select the kind of diet which I have described, and he knows, is best calculated to bring the bird into condition. However, first find the conditions in the loft and make sure that the bird is getting plenty of room and an abundance of breathing space. I know of more than one great national flyer who, when conditioning his birds for a national race, removes every bird from the loft which is not a national candidate, purely to provide more breathing space for the birds he is trying to condition. If I were asked to name the important factors in conditioning racing pigeons, other than housing and feeding, I would name specifics and training. Why? You can look hard at a pigeon and then swear that it is 100% fighting fit, only to wake up next morning and on your first visit to the loft discover that the pigeon is ailing. You can say that with Homo sapiens there are only a handful of common ailments that attack either the young or older version of the human being. That is because modern medicine and hygienic environments have held at bay a number of ailments that were common enough a couple of hundred years ago. One cannot say me same thing for the racing pigeon. Even the greatest champion can contract one of these causes of illness and it can also die from it. Most of the bacteria that create complaints are brought into the loft by agencies other than the pigeons themselves, and in spite of all you might have done to preserve hygienic conditions that favor the birds, the odds are in favor of the bacteria, not of your attempts to fend it off. It is with the above in mind that I suggest to the novice he is unlikely to succeed in his task of putting condition on his pigeons if they go and contract an ailment, or a disease. An accident of this kind can ruin the work of weeks and months. But why let it happen? A number of ailments and diseases are brought into the loft on the backs, and in the saliva, of parasites. Novices should remember that it was the saliva of the flea that infested the back of the black rat which infected their victims with bubonic plague. Therefore, in 1348 AD it was the tiny but voracious flea that destroyed half the population of England. Diseases carried by the numerous parasites that attack racing pigeons can also decimate the inhabitants of a pigeon loft. Therefore, it is up to the novice to use the kind of specifics which kill all and every kind of external parasites. Remember, all of these parasites are not insects, so that specifics sold as insecticides will deter only a section of the range of parasites that attack your birds and live on their blood. The worst offender is undoubtedly the mite family. There are in the blood of racing pigeons, and often in their internal tracts, residual bacteria which are in what I term a state of hibernation. Take canker, for instance. The germs that causes this nasty pigeon disease are known as the trichomonas and residual, but hibernating examples can be found in most pigeons. However, in spite of the presence of this germ in its body, a pigeon can be brought into a high state of fitness always provided nothing happens to wake the hibernating germ from its unharmful sleep. However, only a slight change in temperature, upwards, or some other little factor can cause the residual bacteria to become active and begin to procreate and multiply their numbers. This can happen almost overnight. For this reason I treat my race candidates with an anti-canker specific on the day they are first mated, and I keep up the treatment by applying it once per month throughout the season. I do this on the assumption that it is much better to prevent a catastrophe than to try and overcome it when it has descended on the loft and caused havoc. Any fancier who allows his pigeons to root in the earth, even on a lawn, know that his birds are bound to pick up and contract roundworms. No one owns a special sort of pigeon that does not have roundworms because no such species exist. Pigeons with worms can't win races, so be warned. Perhaps the most pernicious, disgusting and horrible parasite that ever gets inside a racing pigeon and destroys it is the cocci-worm. This pest is known as coccidiosis, and it kills more pigeons than anything, or anyone, including fanciers. Yet it can be knocked down and destroyed by the attention of just one specific tablet, in a matter of minutes. I could carry on in this style, but I have achieved my end if I have reminded the novice of what is expected of him by way of pigeon management, if he hopes to bring his racers into winning condition. The old theory that all you need is a shed, some birds, a drinker and a handful of mixed grains, in order to be a pigeon fancier, is just a pipe dream. As any reader of these notes must have realized, there is more to keeping and racing pigeons than wishful thinking. The road to success calls for a deal of hard work, very keen attention to the birds, and an intelligent approach to pigeon health. Nor am I proposing to enter into an argument about training racing pigeons. Of all the chores a fancier has to face and carry out, none is more onerous, time-consuming, or costly, than that of training the birds. Yet to give up regular training is voluntarily to yield up the prizes and pools and to lose your pigeons because they have not developed the muscle and the stamina called for by the job. If a boxer refuses to train, his manager is obligated to report him to the British Boxing Board of Control, and that boxer is then called to order. If a footballer doesn't attend his home stadium for daily training stints, he is soon sent packing. Athletes must train because there is no alternative. At this juncture of our treatise on condition, I feel obliged to point out another salient factor in athleticism. One does not start to be an athlete when one has become an adult, that is, if one covets any success. One starts when one is very young, especially if one has had the good fortune to have a professional for a parent. If one's object is to make muscle, then the manufacture of this elastic flesh must be carried out from the time when the body is still growing. Athleticism will assist the growth of the muscle, but it will make very little difference to it once the body has reached its growing peak and is starting down on the reverse slope. So, remember that athleticism must begin when the pigeons are young, only a few weeks old, in fact. Another thing to bear in mind is that a pigeon is made, or broke, in its first 3 months of life, and that its future is decided by the time it is 6 months old. Therefore, training is essential while the bird is still a squeaker, and if it is to do the bird any good at all, it must be continuous. Fanciers who can't afford to train can't afford to be fanciers, unless they just wish to sit and look at their birds and nothing else. And that's the rub. Free racing pigeon tips and lots of info. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, look at the links and email below.